How can you build a successful partnership? I know I've had many conversations over the years with construction company owners who are in a partnership, and it really is deeply challenging. And that's why I'm very excited to have as a guest on the show today, Matt Stewart. Matt is a co-founder and co-CEO of National Service Group, which operates a variety of different businesses in the home services business. But I'm having him on Construction Genius because he is an expert at building a partnership. He is actually in a partnership with 3 other individuals and has been in that partnership for over 25 years in a variety of different businesses. And there's 3 things that you need if you're going to have a successful partnership. Number 1 is you need time, 2, patience, and 3, communication. And so we hit on this in great detail in our discussion. And we also talk about very specific things that you can do to keep in alignment in a partnership, what to look for when you're getting into a partnership. We kind of have a side discussion about halfway through the interview that I think is extremely valuable, and that's on identifying your core competency. And so you'll want to make sure that you listen to that. I have a link in the show notes to an article from the Harvard Business Review that will be useful for you. You should check it out. It's called The Core Competence of the Corporation. Matthew is no nonsense, straightforward, very engaging. So I know you'll enjoy this interview. Feel free to reach out to him. He actually has his own podcast. It's called The Edge of Excellence. And I'll put links in the show notes to that podcast. You can get him on LinkedIn as well. I'll put links in the show notes to his LinkedIn profile. He's very generous with his time. You can tell just by listening that he's got a ton of experience in this area. So if you're in a partnership, you're looking to get into a partnership, you're having challenges in a partnership, this episode is going to be tremendously helpful to you. So enjoy my discussion with Matthew. Thanks for listening to Construction Genius today. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Matt, welcome to Construction Genius.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Eric. Nice to be here.
I'm excited to have you on because I know that in your business experience, you have been involved in a variety of different partnerships and the different endeavors that you're involved in. And in my experience working with construction companies, sometimes partnerships don't work out. Why does a partnership in business fail, do you think?
Wow. And I've heard it all my life. My partners and I were told so many times that our model wouldn't work. So we're co-CEOs, 4 of us. That doesn't work. That's ridiculous. And it's not been working for 29 years. And I don't know, $1 billion of revenue, more than $1 billion of revenue. So we've had our difficulties. And we've come to the brink of it not working. And my partnership's interesting. There's 4 of us. So I think the one key, and this is hard, is that we have 4 people. So when there's 4 people, if there's one person that's saying something different, there's an odd man out. And oftentimes that person's right. But oftentimes 3 people, they're thinking more clearly. I think whether you have 4, 2, 3, 5, the key to our partnership is communication. And we're constantly communicating. And I know that when we've had difficulty, when we've been on the brink, it's usually because our meetings have slowed down. We're not having meetings anymore. We're not talking to each other. We're not hanging out and having fun together and, ensuring alignment, ensuring that we're going in the right direction. That could be a lot of times people don't have any formal meetings. So we have formal meetings. But then we also have the informal discussions. After 11 o'clock at night is when, the true storm comes out. We hang out till late in the evening. We go on 2 trips together a year. So we're constantly making sure that we're talking. And I think a lot of partnerships, they may lose the importance of that. And I tell people, we have a few different businesses, and in my businesses, we have partnerships. And I say, the most important meeting you have every week is not with your subordinate. It's with your partner. that you're talking, you're aligning, and you have those fierce conversations, which is a great book by Susan Scott. People think what the other person's saying, just go ask the other person what they're saying. And, and another one is lack of trust. And we used to have lack of trust. First few years of a partnership, how do you trust each other? I've been in a partnership for 29 years. So it's like brothers now. In the beginning, we second guess each other. You've got to get through that time and learn to let the other person make mistakes, let the other person run, not micromanage the other person. So in my experience, those are probably the two keys to partnerships not working out.
Okay, so let's just go back in time then, because that is unusual. Four of you as co-partners, co-CEOs. How did you guys all meet 29 years ago?
We all worked in the same student painting business, and there were two people that were kind of higher up, were as second to the top, and then two of us that were at the grunt level, and the company fell apart. And so the two higher up people decided to restart that company and got the two grunt level, me and another guy, to come in. And then the two higher up people left to go to the mortgage business. And we tried to, myself and another guy tried to buy the whole business. They said no. So we became a equal partnership of four based out of need. Two people needed to work somewhere else and two people needed to be entrepreneurs.
Okay, so then let's explore that a little bit more then. Just give the audience a quick overview of the businesses that you're currently in.
Yeah, we have four main brands. We have CollegeWorks Painting, which teaches university students to run businesses, and they run these little painting companies, and they learn to hire, fire, sell, manage, lead while they're in college. They have to have worked a lot in the past. There's as you can imagine, a high failure rate, but we're one of the biggest painting companies in the United States, and we have one of the highest customer satisfaction ratings in the United States. From that, we spun off a company called Home Genius that works on the East Coast and does everything but painting, does home improvement, roofs, windows, gutters, siding. And then we have a commercial reconstruction company that works across the United States. Garden apartments are kind of bread and butter. We also do the high rises. We have an engineering firm as well. And we make sure the towers don't fall, and we make sure that the apartments don't leak.
Okay, so then coming back to the structure of the partnership. So am I right in hearing that there's two of you that are involved in the business, and then two of the partners that are not so much involved?
No, that was for 2 years, like okay. 1997 and 8. No, all four of us are deeply involved, and the four of us for 20 years co-ran all the companies. Yep. Just a few years ago, we split off and we each took one business.
Okay, so yeah, explain that a little bit to the audience. When you were co-running the businesses, how did you divide up responsibilities?
We divided responsibilities based on what we thought we wanted to do and what we were good at. So for example, my partners came to me and said, Matt, you suck at working with the office team. And I'm a driver, and I'm non-detail oriented, and I've got very little patience. And at that time, I sucked at working with the office team. So right. One of the partners, and you have to confront your partners. And, the office is coming and saying, hey, we don't like Matt. Since then, I've learned to be wonderful at working with office teams. And I've run some other organizations in the past that taught me that. And I took DISC tests and all that stuff and figured it out. But that's one way. Hey, we think this is a problem. The other way was, I want to work with this person, or I want to work in this area. So, one person wanted to work in the commercial area, so he went and worked in the commercial area. I like working with young people. I work with the young people. So a lot of it is what you want to do. When we divide up what we want to do, we're left with what we don't want to do, and then we divide that up too, or we delegate it to other people.
Okay, so let's talk about the communication rhythm. And again, I'd like you to describe to me, when you were all working together, the communication rhythm that you got in on a weekly basis. How did that go? Okay, so it became a weekly basis because it didn't go. So right. I think the natural communication rhythm is, I'll call you on my way home from work. Maybe I'll see you. We didn't go to the office at the same time, so we're driving all over the place. I'll call you on my way home from work, and then maybe I don't call you for a couple of days, and then maybe I haven't seen you for a while. And so our communication rhythm was off. And when the communication rhythm was off,
people are getting different information from us, and we're, the one head of the company is now fragmented and the whole company's frustrated. So we realized that we need to have meetings every week. And when we don't have meetings every week, we're not aligned. I do find
how long were those meetings?
We have an hour-long meeting every week.
Okay. And what was the topic of discussion in those meetings?
The topic of discussion in those meetings changes. So we have 2 retreats a year where we go away for 4 or 5 days. I come up with an agenda for the retreat. I'm kind of the anal retentive person that drives these weird exercises that everybody hates, but they know they need to do. So having those, 4 or 5 day retreats where we're working on the strategic plan, the issues, the opportunities, everybody has to do a SWOT analysis. That's kind of the organized. Every July, every December, we do that. During the 1 hour meetings, we used to have agendas, and I'd send an agenda or somebody else would send an agenda. Now what we do is we briefly go through each area of the business. So each person says, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I need help with. But it's almost like a SWOT. It's almost like, hey, here's my opportunities. What do you guys think? Here's my issues. What do you guys think? And that's what we're bringing every couple of weeks. And then in addition to that, we have the overall main opportunities or issues that are ongoing. Maybe there's a lawsuit that we need to talk about. Maybe there's a key hire, CFO, or that we need to talk about. Maybe there's a credit line that we need to talk about. So there's always the one big opportunity of the week or the month. And then there's the updates on the different parts of business.
Okay. So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like you divided the businesses up equally, 25% each. Is that right?
Yeah, everybody owns 25% each.
Okay. So then, how do you reach a decision when there's disagreement? So you're in that meeting, right? And you're butting heads, and I say A and you say B, and I'm convinced and you're convinced. What do we do?
So that's where everybody said it would never work. And I think you got to be patient. If you're listening right now and you're in a partnership for 2 years and you're butting heads and you don't really trust each other, have faith, be patient. If your values align and your vision align, it'll come together. But I'm an arrogant asshole, so it's hard to deal with me, right? So it took a few years to get to the point where we functioned. But what do
you mean by values and vision? Tell me, what do you mean by that?
So I think there's 2 versions of that. There's the personal vision. Where am I going? Vision is a point on the wall where you're headed to. Personally, where do I want to be? I want to impact the world. I want to leave with no regrets. My partners align with that. So I know my partner, Spencer, makes decisions that are the moral decision, not the financial decision. I know he'll always look out for our employees before he looks out for our partnership. And, we're aligned that way, and that vision alignment, personal vision alignment really helps. And then there's the business vision. We want to grow the business. We want to expand the business. We want to focus on our core competency, which we learned the hard way. So we have a corporate vision and personal visions that align, and then values, what we stand for. Integrity, honesty, contribution, learning, love. Now, those are my words, my family's words. But if you compare them to my business partner's words, and they don't write them down the way I do, or you compare them to the vision and values of the company, they're all kind of aligned, which makes the decision making easier. Now, if I had one narcissistic part, we're a selfless group. If there was a narcissist in our partnership wouldn't work out. Right. We didn't have the same values. If there was someone that wanted to, have a $1 million business and keep it that way forever, and somebody else wants a $100 million business and work really hard to get there, that probably wouldn't work out. So we have the same business vision, business values, personal values. Okay.
So again, then you talk about patience, and I agree. Patience is crucial in any partnership. But let's say you're revisiting an issue of strategic importance, or perhaps there's an issue of hiring and firing. There's someone in the company that you think's a cancer, and your partner's like, well, I think we should give this guy a shot. And you got overhead invested in this person, and maybe it's affecting customer relationships, et cetera, et cetera. What do you do then?
Yeah. So that's your original question. When you come to a stalemate in decision-making, well, very rarely do we vote. So very rarely, there was one recently where it was 3 against me, I lost. That happens very rarely. Typically, we'll take the time. So is it slower? Yes, it's slower. We'll take the time. Eventually, someone's got to say, just do it. That's my favorite person in the company. Just fire her. I could be wrong. So we're not going to take all the time in the world. We're not going to have decision paralysis. But, people say, yeah, how do you do it with a partner? I say, how do you do it without a partner? I mean, if you're a sole proprietor, you fire that person, you make that decision. I'm so glad I've got 3 smart people to second guess my decisions. And I'll tell you, almost every pet project, every big decision that anyone's brought forward has been adjusted and improved by the slower process. It might take an extra week. It might take 2 weeks, but man, we end up with a better decision, I think.
That's very interesting. I want to go back to something that you said earlier that caught my attention, and you learned the hard way about your core competency. Tell me about that.
So I have a friend who is CEO of Oakley, and I went to this Oakley event that he put on actually for me, and he talked about core competency.
Oakley, the sunglasses lifestyle brand. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was the key. They wanted to be a lifestyle brand, and they were a sunglasses company, and they were making shoes and watches and all this stuff. And he came in and they were losing a bunch of money. And I think they had, 35 different glasses. He cut it down to 4. They were making watches and shoes. He got rid of that. And he focused them on their core competency, which was a sports brand for men. And then he went to a sports brand for women. And they had gotten away from their core competency. And I sat there in the audience and I thought, Scott, why didn't you tell me this before? This is what we did. So we had a chemical company. We invented a chemical. We sold through Home Depot. We had an internet software, a hardware company that we sold to mortgage businesses. We had a mortgage business. We had a real estate company. And we thought our core competency was sales, and we didn't go through the exercise. So since then, I studied what core competency is, and we've got a core competency really of training and empowering people in the home improvement industry. That's our core competency.
That's really good. Training and empowering people in the home improvement industry. Excuse me. Give us just a little bit about the process that you went through to get to that core competency. How did you go through that?
Okay. So again, when you're in a partnership, you have some fights. And when you're in a partnership of all men and we're all the same disc profile, we're all drivers, you have a lot of fights, and we're all young. We have a lot of fights. So we were debating, and and I'm the guy that brings in these weird business exercises because I'm deep into the YEOs and the YPOs of the world, and so I bring in these exercises, and everybody. Well, one other guy's in it too, so he loves it. The other 2 are like, "Oh, Matt's bringing these lame exercises again," but I would force the discussion, and personally, whenever we have pet projects in our partnership, we got to go do our homework. So if Jeff has a pet project, he's coming in with a report and studies, and he's done his homework. So I spent a lot of time discovering what core competency is and what core competency isn't. And we had lots of discussions about it. And we a lot of times our discussions aren't straightforward.
Yeah.
It's kind of lobbying. It's sabotage maybe. So I sabotage my partners by inserting these little things here and there to keep core competency in the top of their mind. And, other things that we do that around are, keeping financial management at the top of our mind, keeping cash flow at the top of our mind. But I kept dropping seeds, and we've got lots of seeds being dropped by lots of partners. But this was my pet project because I had a for sale sign up in front of my house. We lost everything we had and then some because of this dumb chemical company and this dumb software company and this horrible partnership with Home Depot. And, we learned by really almost losing everything that we needed to focus down. So, our personality types, unfortunately, sometimes we need to get stung pretty hard. So when you lose everything you have times 3, you wake up one day and say, I need to not do this again. And so that was our lesson. We were way off the Richter. And you see this with entrepreneurs all the time. They're successful in their construction company. So then they think they're a real estate genius. Right. That's usually step 1. And then it's the best economy in the history of the world. So they feel like a real estate genius. So why not get into junk hauling or whatever else? And why not spend more energy in what you're good at instead of going back into your 20s and starting over in a new industry. So you can learn a new core competency, but I'm 50 years old. Why would I? Why not leverage the competency I already have? Go to a new market, or like Scott did. There are a sports sunglasses company for men. Let's add women. Let's not add shoes. Right. And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do, especially in construction. They get success and they try something totally new when they could look at what's just one sliver away, and I can expand my core competency instead of trying to start a new one. So then, and you can look it up. I mean, look at the Prallahat and Hamill paper from Harvard Review. There's so much paperwork on it, so many exercises, and it's really worth doing. And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you. What were some of the resources that you use? Can you tell the audience just so that we can?
Yeah. So I went to the original paper, Prallahat and Hamill, from the Harvard Business Review, which was like 1970s. And I went to Google and I looked up core competency, and then I talked to my friends that were good at it, and I developed exercises. 5 levels of why. We're good at sales. Why are we good at sales? Because we're good at training. Why are we good at training? Because we pick the right people. Why are those the right people? And we keep going down. As I told you what my core competency was, literally in my mind, I was thinking, God, I hope no one on this call that's listening is an expert in core competency, because they can challenge me on it. And so we would challenge each other. We would bring other people to challenge each other. I'd go to my EO or YPO forum. They would challenge me on it. And over the course of a long period of time, we figured out what we think our core competency is. Now, if you went to Harvard and you worked at Bain and you're a lot smarter than me, you probably figure it out faster, but it took us a while.
I wouldn't count on people who go to Harvard and Bain figuring it out faster than you.
You haven't.
Now, I just so the audience knows, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the original article by C.K. Prahalland and Gary Hamill. So I've got that link right here. So check that out. And I do think that, Matthew, what you're talking about is so important, because you described it very well, that sometimes something is working, and as entrepreneurs, we get restless and we want to go try something else instead of just repeating the same thing again and again and figuring out why it's working, and then finding that kernel of competency like you're talking about, and then taking that kernel of competency and seeing if we can execute that in different areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a kernel, and it's hard to find a kernel.
It's very interesting though, because the way you described it was training and empowering people in the home improvement industry. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Now, why wasn't it like sales or execution? Why was it training and empowering?
Because that's too broad, right? That's what we thought it was. So sales applies to everything. And so as we looked at what we do, and we looked at what works, and we had other businesses too, home improvement, because we've got the same customers. We're leveraging the customers. Yes. When we went into chemicals, now we're business to business. Well, we're business to business, then to the consumer. That's a whole different customer. So part of core competency is leveraging what you're already doing. So you don't want a whole new set of customers. You don't want a whole new set of salespeople. You want to leverage what you already have. So the article that you put the link to, they talk about Post-it. They just put that stick on little square pieces of paper, then they made it bigger square pieces of paper, then they made it Post-its, and they took this core competency of making this sticky film and put it all over the world, and now they own the world's sticky paper. They didn't go invent, clipboards. They figured out a way to leverage that little piece, and that was our problem. We were great at sales, so we can sell to anything. No, we're great at business to consumer sales, but no, it's not. That's not it. We're great at business to consumer sales with people that have never done it before, because we're great at training them. And then we have this industry knowledge, and we have these industry relationships. I want to bring Sherwin-Williams to everybody. I don't want to, and our other vendors too. I don't want to go find all new vendors and all new customers. I want to leverage my little core competency and get more out of what I'm already doing.
Okay. So again, I think this is very useful for people to think through. One of the reasons why I think people miss their core competencies is because sometimes there's a couple of things. One is because it's kind of humble, like you're saying. It's just this sticky stuff that we put on a piece of paper, right? Yeah. And the other thing is sometimes we're unaware of what we do very well.
Mm-hmm.
We've built a business up and we think it's because of X, but really it's because of another reason entirely. And because we do it so well, we're unaware of it. And that's why going through an exercise of considering what it is that you do can give you some insights that you can then leverage to grow your business in different areas.
I think there's a natural humility in people. So, we might be perceived as extroverts and arrogant because we're entrepreneurs, but there's this natural humility that, oh, I'm good at this, so everybody must be good at this.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't even know what I'm good at because I don't give myself credit for it. So, and I know whoever's listening right now, they're thought of as arrogant and they're thought of as an extrovert, but think about it. You're really not that arrogant and you're really not that extroverted either. You're out there making it happen and you're out there talking and you're waving your arms like I am right now, but deep down inside, you just want to stay at home, and deep down inside, you don't think you're good at anything. Yeah. And that's sad. So I tell people I told it to my son the other day, write 20 things down that you're good at. And I'll do it in my company, and anybody that can't come up with 5 in a minute, I'll sit there and in 10 seconds, throw 10 of them at them. And I think it sounds crazy, but spending some time thinking about what you're good at personally, and then spending some time really analyzing your strengths. Whenever we do the SWOTs, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, everybody focuses on the weakness and the threats. Focus on the strengths. How do you leverage your strengths further? Dig into the strengths. We always skip over the S. The S is what got you here. You work on your weaknesses, you're just going to have stronger weaknesses. Work on the strengths.
Okay, so let's just continue to explore this a little bit. What is an exercise a company can do to discover those things that they do well that they don't even know they do well?
You can do a 360 review of the company. That's where you go to all the stakeholders. You go to customers, suppliers, employees, coworkers, everybody all around. You can hire an organization to do it. You can make up your own survey, probably have to do something for them to get them really thinking, and they'll identify things that you're really good at. That's one exercise. You can force yourself and your partners to sit down and really hash it out. I really love the 5 levels of why. Why is that a strength? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? You can Google it, and you can Google it and look for, corporate strength finder. I know there's a book called Strength Finder. I'm sure there's one called Corporate Strength Finder. Yep. I belong to entrepreneur organizations, and I'll do a little plug for the Entrepreneurs Organization. If you've got a business of $1 million or more, you have a forum, and you've got these people that are also in business. And in my forum all the time, they're telling me, hey, you're good at this. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. They also tell you what you're bad at, which you need to know. So there's 3.
Yeah. So I think this is really important. And someone might be listening to this, they're a contractor, and they're like, well, Eric, I'm just good at kicking ass and building a project and bringing it in on time.
Why?
And fair enough. That's true. But for the purpose of leveraging your company successfully and emphasizing what you do well, what Matt just said about the 5 whys, peeling back a layer or 2, that can really help you to get to the core of what it is that you do that you're not even aware that you do well. Mm-hmm. And if you get that, then you can translate that into things like your marketing efforts. You can also translate that into helping you understand new markets that you should get into, where you can do that same thing again, where the market is just next door to what you're doing currently.
And if you don't, and you try one of those expansions, you'll usually create problems in what was already working out, because you're so distracted, because you're so unprepared. And we see it all the time, right? You see it all the time. And when you're a contractor and you're kicking butt and all the money's rolling in, you don't need to worry about it, but eventually that's going to stop happening. So now's the time to do it. When you're up, you have the luxury of strategic planning when you're successful. You don't have the time when you're not. You have the luxury of identifying your core competency when things are going well. When it's not going well, you don't. So now, while we're at the peak of the economy, all-time peak, it's been the longest peak to peak that we've ever seen. Now's the time to do that stuff.
Yeah, it's tremendous. Okay, let's get back to the partnership then. let's say I want to start a business, and there's some people who are, they just want to do it by themselves. Fair enough. I know I'm one of those, right? I'm not interested in partnership, but then there's other people who, maybe you're working in a construction company and you're thinking, well, I mean, I know I'm good at landing the work, but I'm not necessarily good at building the work. I'm not as good at planning the work. Matt, as you get into a partnership, how should someone be looking at what to look for in another partner?
And I'd say if you want to do it by yourself, which isn't my way, you can find partners that aren't partners. You can get an advisory board, not a board of directors. They're not going to control your decisions. An advisory board. You can go join YPO, Vistage, EO, one of those things, and you'll have, like, I get the advice, I get the second guessing, I get the leverage of ideas out of my partnership, and I couldn't imagine working without it. In hindsight, my partnership came to me at 21 years old. So I didn't know what was going on. But in hindsight, what I would look for is they have the same values. They have the same vision. You have some camaraderie. You can have fun together. Mm-hmm. And if you can, and I think values, vision are first and second, camaraderie is third. People might argue that, but gotta be nice if they were strong in different areas. Now, my partnership are 4 salespeople that are good at management and are drivers and are non-detail oriented. I wish one of us was great at accounting. I wish one of us was more of a conscientious compliant. We don't have that. So we then hire people that we can act with as partners. And my partner, Jay, says they can come sit at this table. We want people that we work with that will fill in our skill blanks and will stand up against us and push back. We want strong people that will act as partners, even though they're not stockholders in the business. But I would look for, if you're looking for a partner, values and vision and camaraderie first. And then maybe if you can get that different skill set, great. But if you have, you're horrible at production, you need a production partner, but you have someone with great values that align, vision that aligns, that you've got camaraderie with, that will leverage your sales and leverage your growth, then go hire a quote partner to run the production for you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Let me go to perhaps a sticky subject for partnerships. So you get into a partnership and then the spouses meet or the significant others meet, and me and Matt get along great, but man, for whatever reason, my significant other and Matt's wife, it's just not happening. What happens there, Matt?
When I was very young, actually the day we started our business, my business partner's wife decided that she hated me for a very good reason, which I won't get into. And she doesn't hate me anymore, but it's been a lot of years and a lot of things have happened since then. Our wives don't hang out. So, there's 4 of us and my wife loves the other wives, but they haven't talked to each other for years. Now, one of my partners lives in Maryland, one lives an hour away, and one has a sweet fishing boat in down the street, 30 minutes. So my wife and I go to his house quite a bit, and we get along. But I don't think they need to get along. We have a weird policy too. We don't bring spouses on our retreats.
Oh, interesting.
We go by ourselves. So our spousal lives are completely separate.
Okay, so that's very good. So you guys have made that conscious decision.
No. It wasn't conscious. No. It just happened that way.
It just happened.
Get along.
Okay.
They get along. It just never. I think you can choose. I mean, if they've got a great relationship, you can choose to integrate them, choose to bring them. In one of our companies, the spouses do go on the retreats, and it's a big part of the retreat, integrating the spouses. The other companies, it's not. So this guy made a choice to make that part of the business, and it's worked out great. We actually didn't make a choice, but it worked out great.
So that's a very good insight. I like that very much, because it doesn't have to, a business partnership doesn't have to extend to every aspect of our lives. Yeah. But it is important, and you made that point very well, for camaraderie to exist to a sufficient extent to be able to run the business together.
I really think that, and I look at, I spent a lot of time in these business forums because I used to be the global chair of one of those organizations. Yep. And when they're not doing the retreats, when they're not having fun, they break down. When our business partnership, in the recession and we're losing our asses and we're selling our houses, we had to make time to have fun together. We had to make time to relax together. And one of my friends has this big HVAC company, and his partner came to him and said, "Hey, Charlie, why do you always stay out with these guys till 1 o'clock in the morning?" He said, because after 11, they can't shut up and I can. And I thought, there you go. So 12 o'clock at night, sitting in New Orleans, fighting with my business partner about what an ass he is and what an ass I am. And then waking up in the morning and hugging it out. That's where the truth comes out. That's where, I've been keeping it inside and he's been keeping it inside. So, we need to get out there and fish together. So it's a communication starter. Yeah. It gets it flowing, and whatever you're not saying is not helping. So how do you get those difficult conversations going? You go out and fish, or you have a couple of drinks, and it all comes out.
Yeah. So I think that's fundamental, right? Because so many times in partnerships, you go and talk to an outside party and you're telling the outside party about all the things that you never say to your partner. And that's why that camaraderie and those sort of soft opportunities to open up doors of communication are so important.
And we truly like each other. We truly respect each other. Like, I called one of my partner's kids. I haven't talked to his kids. Maybe I've never talked to him. I called two of his kids yesterday to have them help out another friend of mine's kids. And I said, hey, this is Matt, your dad's cool partner. Oh, Matt. So I know they've talked about me, and my partners have been to my house. We like spending time together. I couldn't imagine, back to values, vision, camaraderie. I couldn't imagine being partners with someone I didn't like. I think you have to like each other. You can't hate going to work. You can't hate. I look forward to talking to my partners on the phone. And now, not all the time. Sometimes we're pissed off at each other. Sometimes that lasts maybe as much as a year, but it's just like being married. If something goes wrong in your marriage in the first 6 months of marriage, oh, I married the wrong person. If something goes wrong in your marriage after 6 years, wait, this isn't the same person. There's something, this is different. I got to dig down to what was going on. So if I'm having a problem with my partner, first thing I think about is, what did I do? Because I know that partner's a great person. I like that person. I know their values, their vision. Second thing I think is, oh, wait, this isn't right. This isn't how it normally is. So I think that's important that you have that camaraderie.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. What if I'm in a partnership, whether it's with one person or three or whatever the case may be, and I know right now it's broken, and I'm talking to you, Matt, we're having a couple of drinks, and I'm asking you, Matt, in all of your experience, almost 30 years here in partnerships, what can I do first to fix the broken partnership?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record about a broken partnership, but it comes down to communication. Yeah. And in one of our companies, we have a fifth partner, and the fifth partner is actually the largest shareholder. And he's been our partner forever. And there was a communication issue where another person had talked badly about that person to me, and this guy overheard. And it was a horrible scenario, but it was kind of what we needed to create the communication. So there was a secret broken partnership that accidentally became apparent, and it created communication. The other thing it did was make sure that guy knew how much I love him, because I stood up for him and went to bat. And I'm so glad he heard, because it was an opportunity for him to sit for an hour and hear me just go to bat for him over and over. He didn't know how much I loved him. So it works both ways, right? I mean, back to that humility, we're humble inside and we don't compliment people enough. So our partners don't know how much we love them. That might be why it's breaking. So maybe me and this other guy, we weren't getting along. I always thought we were getting along great, but maybe he didn't until he heard that and realized how much I respect him, how much I love him, how much I care for him. So, I think complimenting and recognizing other people's strengths before it breaks or after it breaks. But my partnership's been broken numerous times. I've had FU and I'm the chief asshole in my partnership. So I know that too. So I know I'm aggressive. I know I think I'm right all the time. I know I've got ego issues, and so I can recognize that, but I don't know it enough. And so they're confident and they're strong enough to say, "Hey, this is you this time." We had a partnership break once where we had employees. Employees sometimes come and sabotage the partnership. Employees come and sabotage, and all of a sudden they're coming after me because I've done something wrong. Well, I hadn't done it wrong, and they made a decision that cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars and really messed up our business in a big way. And there was communication that came out of it. So, I mean, you're going to have these things in any, whether you're doing it by yourself or you have a partnership, there's going to be decisions made that cost big dollars. There's going to be problems created. And I find that almost all the time and patience, you got to wait it through, communication, discussion. And if your values and vision align, it'll all come back together. And so if I was in a partnership right now and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm thinking, God, I hate my partner, I would go figure out a way to sit down and discuss it. And I would start by figuring out what I don't hate about them. And I do that all the time. I constantly think about what my partners bring to the partnership. If I ever have a problem, if I have a problem with one of my partners, first thing I do is think about what's awesome about them. And I'm a negative guy. I'm a problem finder. So I'm actually a real positive guy, but for some reason in business, I'm a problem finder. So as I find problems, I try to check myself and come up with what's great about that person and change my mindset. Every morning before I get out of bed, I think 3 wonderful things about my wife. If I don't, I rip her to pieces all day. Right. So same thing with the partnership. What's great about your partner that you're having a problem with? What do you love about them? What do they do better than you? And then if you can figure out a way to communicate the issue you're having, and you can come from love, and you can come from a constructive focus of, we need to build this partnership to build this business and solve this problem together. And if you can be ready for it's your fault, you'll get through it.
Really appreciate that. Let me ask you a little bit about succession planning in a partnership environment. What plans, if any, do you have for carrying the business on beyond yourselves in terms of, let's say you get to, you hit 60 or something, you say, I'm done, or 70, whatever the case is. How does that look for you guys?
And we didn't talk about that. When we started our partnership, we documented our partnership, and we got some great advice. Act as if it's going to blow up. And so so many people miss that step. Do you have an employment agreement? And do you have a stockholders agreement? Do you have planning in the stockholders agreement for a divorce? All of my partners are still married. I don't think any of us are going to get divorced, but what if, you don't want someone's spouse taking over 25% of your company. Yeah. So what are you going to do if there's a divorce? What are you going to do if there's a death? What are you going to do if someone is a criminal? What are you going to do? So we have all that documented. So nice. we have had that from day one. So nice. I wanted to mention that.
And so let's say let's say, so it's not like a catastrophic event, but rather it's, I'm done. I want to pass the business on, let's say you're done, Matt, but your partners aren't done. You want to get out, that kind of stuff. What have you guys thought about as far as that's concerned?
And that's where I was going with that. So in that agreement, we have what happens if one of us gets out. Okay. We have payout over time. We have multiple of earnings. All that's in that agreement. It's been in that agreement for 28 years. Now, I think we're going to be partners forever. I think they all think we're going to be partners forever. And even if we sell our businesses, we'll probably be investment partners forever. So as far as succession planning, we plan for the worst. We plan for this one person getting out. And then in our case, we're considering options and we have discussions about it. So maybe if we want to get out, we do an ESOP, and we have discussions about that. So since day one, we've been planning for what if we wanted to get out. Now we don't. I don't know what I would do. I love what I do. I know that men die within 3 years of retirement, so I don't think I'm ever going to retire, or 50% of them do. But we've talked about it. We've talked about strategic buyers. We've talked about equity buyers. We've had equity companies come to us and try to buy us. We've talked about selling to employees. We've had employees come to us and try to buy us. We've sold divisions. From some of our divisions are partially held by the people that run them. In fact, all of them are. We've had those change hands. And again, a broken record again, just communicating and planning. When we get back to those retreats that we do, some of those retreats will go through exercises on, what if exercises. And again, if your business is going great, you have time to do that. If your business is not going great, you don't have time. So be patient and wait till the business is going well again. But, we spent time discussing it. Back to the EOs and the YPOs and the Vistages. We're hearing speakers talk about it. We have accountants come in. So, we're working on the business right now. We're working on the strategic plan for the business. We're working on the what ifs. We don't do it always. We're not perfect at it, but at least once in a while, we remember to do it.
No, that's good. I really appreciate that. Matt, you've been really generous with your time here. So let's just summarize here. Let's wrap up. 3 action items for building a healthy partnership.
Number 1, have meetings. The most important meeting you have in the week is not with your banker, not with your supplier, not with your key employee. It's with your partner. 2, go away together. It's different when you go away. If you can go home at night and hang out with your significant other, it's not the same. Lock yourself away somewhere where you're going to get down to the nitty gritty. And 3, the lame vision exercises and the lame value exercises that nobody wants to do, work, hire somebody to do it for you, find something online, but put in some of those exercises where you think distant, long-term to ensure that you're aligned. And I'll give you a 4th one, be patient.
Yeah, you've said that a number of times, and I do appreciate that because patience is very important. So have meetings, go away together. And I like what you said, do the lame visions and values exercises. It's beautiful because, every entrepreneur, right? We hate meetings and we hate the lame vision and values, but we really need to do it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Matt, how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to?
Well, we have a podcast of our own called The Edge of Excellence. It's more designed for your kids. It's helping your kids figure out their careers. So I'd love anyone in their 20s that's trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Go check out the Edge of Excellence podcast. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew.K.Stewart at LinkedIn.
Excellent. We will have links in the show notes to the Edge of Excellence podcast. And we will also have links in the show notes to your LinkedIn profile, Matthew. I really appreciate your time. You've been terrifically generous. Great insights. Thanks very much for joining us on Construction Genius today.
And Eric, thanks so much for having me. Your English accent reminds me of my upbringing with my Americanized English mom. It was wonderful to be here on my last day of quarantine with you.
Thank you for listening to my discussion with Matthew. One of the things that Matthew talked about, which I think is very, very interesting, is the importance of clarifying your vision and values. And this is particularly true if you are in a partnership. If you are in a partnership in a construction company and you'd like an outside voice to help you with that process, reach out to me on my website, constructiongenius.com/contact. I have worked over the years with many different construction companies that are in partnerships, so I know that dynamic. And I may be able to help you as you clarify the values and vision of your company and move your company forward strategically. So reach out to me. Let's have a short conversation. We'll figure out if or how I can help you. And if I can, we can talk more about what that might look like. My name again is Eric Anderton. Thanks for listening to Construction Genius today. Feel free to share this interview with other people. Give us a rating or a review, and a review actually, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify or on Apple. And that helps to spread Construction Genius all throughout the interwebs. Have a terrific day, and thanks again for listening.